Joining me today on Worldview with Denis Campbell is Denis Campbell, editor-in-chief of UK Progressive Magazine and host of Worldview Show on YouTube at youtube.com/Worldview Show. Denis, last week we were speculating what would happen in Cyprus with the bailout. Was there the potential for the government to seize money from people's bank accounts? It seemed last week like the answer to that was going to be no. Things have changed drastically, have they not?
Oh, they sure have. I mean, when we were talking, we were, I think, on the heels of an announcement by the government in Cyprus that they would not be seizing the deposits at all. Then the stakes were upped by both the European government as well as Cyprus itself. Now, remember, go back to our conversation last week. This is 0.7% of the GDP of the European Union, so less than 1%. And it was a little bit of a case of the tail wagging the dog, particularly when you look at bailouts that have been underway in places such as Greece, Ireland, a potential bailout in Spain, and lots of austerity cuts there. The big difference here is the size of the banking industry, and the banking industry is disproportionately large to the population, and most of the money is in the form of this offshore investment, a lot of it from Russian oligarchs. And we had the death of an oligarch here under very mysterious circumstances, a very outspoken critic of Mr. Putin. So there's a lot of that sort of underlying intrigue going on, and indeed there's a fear of retaliation by the Russian government against European businesses as a result of a lot of deposits being taken from high-end depositors. So I'm not sure this story is completely over yet.
So let's go through the facts quickly for people, and then I have so many questions about this. What are the tiers and percentage of bank assets that are going to be seized?
Not sure of the specifics as to what's being seized. I just know that it all affects the upper end. Basically, the everyday working person in Cyprus will be able to have access to their money, but there have been restrictions placed. For example, if you're traveling abroad, you can't take any more than 3,000 euros, that's about $5,000, maybe a little bit less, in currency with you on your trip. And if you do use your credit cards abroad, they are capped at 5,000 euros. That's
right. That's sounding reminiscent of some of the policy in my home country of Argentina that's been put in place because of the currency issues there. So in the U.S., of course, if the government tried to do something like this, you would hear all sorts of arguments, and included in those arguments would be legal arguments that the government legally cannot do this. So question one is, are those types of arguments being made in Cyprus, or is there really no question that this is legal?
Well, I mean, if you look at the way most banks structure their deposit agreements, and this is the big fear out there. They can at any point in time. They don't give you a piece of paper that says you have money on account. Basically, they offer a form of an obligation that says, yes, if you come in, we are obligated to pay you back, but it's not a like-for-like transfer. So what they're saying, at least across the rest of the European Union, is that if you think your money is safe in a European bank, this is what some of the critics are saying, the same rules apply to all of these banks, and a government could come in and seize those funds. So it's been a panic throughout a lot of the private saving market. The rest of the market just sort of goes along because there's so many debt instruments. I guess there's not that many savings to be worried about. But it still is a huge issue that, yes, the government can come in at any point in time and just seize the money, because you're not really, when you're giving your money to a bank, you're not just putting it in there and just say, I have the right to come back and take it out.
So last week, the answer to this question was no. I'm curious whether it's changed now. Are those in other European countries now becoming concerned that this may happen outside of Cyprus as well?
Well, I think there is a concern, but the concern would be more from the perspective of how many more shocks to the system can the system take before it collapses. I mean, if you look at Greece, at Ireland, at Spain, now Cyprus, and a number of others, we've been on this austerity bent now for quite some time. We're seeing slowdowns in manufacturing. We're seeing slowdowns in other areas. Could a government preemptively strike? The answer is yes. I mean, they've done this before. They've devalued currency in the past. They've done other things. Actually seizing deposits, though, that's the first in this particular sort of a step.
All right. So, Denis, tell us what's happening today on Worldview Show.
Well, we just finished taping an interview with the Reverend Irene Monroe, and she's an LGBTQ activist who's been very actively following what's been going on. So we have a very long conversation with her. She's somewhat pessimistic, I have to say, about where things are actually headed, as are many people. So it was very interesting to hear her view on that. And by the way, if you live in Wales, you just bought an airport. We'll be talking with Peter Phillips later this evening, and that will go up tomorrow night.
All right, so make sure not to miss any videos on Worldview with Denis Campbell. Go to youtube.com/worldview show. You hit subscribe. That's it. I mean, it's very, very straightforward stuff, Denis. And of course, thanks as always for being here. And we'll talk more next week.
Thank you, and happy holidays to everybody in your listening audience.